In this video, I want to go over some basics in Excel. This will be a refresher for some, but I want to be sure we're all familiar with some of the basic features of Excel. This will be a pretty brief tutorial, just hitting some high points. So that said, let's quickly review some Excel basics. First, pretty basic, entering numbers. A number can be entered in a cell in a variety of ways. I can start with equal, 450, and hit enter. I can begin with a plus, enter. I can begin with a minus, or I can just start with a number. If I want the value to be dollars, begin with a dollar sign. If I want it to be a percentage, end with a percent sign. Now let's look at adding and subtracting numbers and summing columns of numbers. An important note, always reference cells. Do not enter absolute numbers in functions or formulas. The power of Excel is in its what-if capability. To add the 450 in cell C9 and the 625 in C10 and put the sum in D10. Place your cursor in D10. Start with equal C9 plus C10. Press enter. If I change the value in C10, the sum immediately changes to reflect that. If you had entered the absolute numbers 450 plus 625, it would not change. Subtraction works basically the same way. Begin with an equals, C12 minus C11. To sum the column of numbers, two ways to do it. Easiest way is to use Excel's built-in summation formula. It's the sigma right up here. The range will default to those 5 numbers directly above the cell I'm in because that's what Excel thinks I want. If it's not, you can highlight what you do want. Press enter. Alternately, we could add them just like we did before. C9 plus C10 plus C11 plus C12 plus C13. Either way works. That just is a bit more cumbersome. Let's look at copying cells and relative addressing. Excel makes it very easy to enter a formula in a cell and then copy it to other cells. When you copy a formula, Excel changes the cell references relative to where the formula is placed. So let's look at this example. I want to multiply the percentages in column B times the numbers in column C and place the results in column D. In the first one, equals B19 times C19. Now I can copy that down 2 ways. Place the cursor on D19, right-click, select copy. That'll start flashing. Highlight down where I want it to go and press enter. Alternately, place your cursor on D19. Move over to the bottom right hand corner. See the little plus sign? Just drag it down. Now look at what Excel has copied. This cell reads B19 times C19. This one reads B20 times C20. Excel has changed the formula relative to where it's placed. When we entered that formula in D19, Excel actually interpreted that as multiply the value in the cell 2 to the left of where I am times the value in the cell 1 to the left of where I am. So wherever you copy it, that's how it's going to interpret it. Being able to enter a formula in a cell and copy it to other cells and have it adjusted for its new location is very powerful, but that's not always what you want. In this example, I want to take 10% of each of those numbers. We could enter the formula in each cell individually, but there's a better way. In the first cell up there, D25 equal, place your cursor on the 10%, B25, and press the F4 key. See the dollar signs that come around it? That freezes the reference to both column B and row 25. Wherever you copy that reference, it's going to say B25. Press F4 again. The 25 is frozen, but not the B. B and not the 25, neither, both. That's what we want, times C25. Now, I can copy this down just like I did before. Notice what's in there. B25 times C26, B25 times C27. This can be very useful in a variety of calculations that we're going to come across. Now, you may have been introduced to a few Excel functions, but we're going to be using quite a few in this course, especially the financial functions and some statistical ones. So I want to give a quick intro to how to access and use a function. In this example, I'm going to use the average function to get the average of those 3 numbers. So place my cursor on D39. Hit the FX key right up here. Notice the choice. I've got financials, date and time, math and trig, statistical, etc. Average is a statistical function. Pick average. I have a window. Notice it's defaulted to that range right there. Again, I could highlight a different range if that isn't what I wanted. Press enter, and there's my average. The last topic I want to look at is the if-then function. If any of you have done any programming, you're familiar with the basic if-then decision statement. Excel has a logical if-then function which can be very useful. It basically takes the form of if A is true, then B, else C. And in this simple example, if cell C46 is equal to 450, I want to put a 1 in C47, otherwise 0. Equals if that. This has been a very quick review of some of the features of Excel that will be very useful in this course.